What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk very clearly, very directly about Blue Box Game Studios, about the game Abandon. Obviously, Hasan's video with Colin Moriarty went live, I believe, last night. There's other people talking to him. I think IGN even did an interview with him. Dreamcast guy did I think, back and forth with him that he's not going to publish. And here's the thing, and I want to make this come off as clearly as possible. Well, a few things. Number one, this is not like a direct attack on Hasan. I truly could care less about him as an individual, right? And I mean that as in I'm not going there messaging him, spamming him, all of this stuff, right? There's no attacks ever been thrown at the man or the studio by me, and there never will be. So if you do that, that's on you. I am telling people not to do that, right? And you have to, YouTube-wise, it's important to say those things, but it's also important just as a human being, right? That there's no threats or no like super crazy nasty things being sent at these people. They could be scammers in general, so it's maybe not even worth your time. But no, so I truly do believe that. I truly do believe these people don't deserve or need or warrant or anything, any kind of frustration to that level of attacks. And I just want to make that very, very clear, both from me and from my audience, okay? It does seem to me very, very, very likely that this entire thing was a scam. And I know when the word scam goes around, people say, Alex, it's not by definition a scam. Well, I want to read you the definition of both a scam and a scheme, and then I'm going to come back to this. So the definition for scam is a dishonest scheme or a fraud. Now you could say, okay, Alex, well, what is a scheme? Well, let's look at the scheme definition. As a noun, it's a large-scale systematic plan or arrangement for attaining a particular object or putting a particular idea into effect. And then as a verb, it's to make plans, especially in a devious way or with intent to do something illegal or wrong. I don't think there's necessarily anything illegal, okay? I don't think there's law breaking going on with Hasan or Blue Box, but I do think the entire thing is whatever, a fraud, scheme, scam, whatever, word you want to throw around. And I really would advise you guys watch the Colin Moriarty interview. I just watched it. I spent my entire morning while I was getting my daughter breakfast when I was driving to school. I had it like playing on my phone in the car, just on YouTube. I listened to the entire interview, and what a goddamn interview it is. Hasan jumps through every single hoop humanly possible, or I guess he's very good at avoiding things. Everything is under NDA, even though half the things definitely aren't NDA. Colin even calls him on those things several. And the reason I'm bringing this up, right, is we need to really understand this man, Hasan. I don't think, because there's a couple different ways you can go about it, right? Either this is the most evil, nefarious person in the world who's doing everything very, very purposely to achieve some outcome, and I don't think that's entirely true. But you could also say, or this is the most inexperienced, just not talented in terms of putting everything together person in the world. And I don't think either of those two are fully 100% true. I feel like this is both a person that doesn't really know what they're doing at all, mixed with kind of sensing where you can make something off of it, and then you're trying to profit from it. That's where I think Hasan is. I don't think it's all necessarily nefarious, but I don't think it's all stupidity and not having a clue what you're doing. I think it's somewhere in between. And what I mean by that is, and again, I really advise you guys watch that interview. It's very, very good in terms of just seeing him dodge things. And he even admits to the history of a lot of his games. So here's the thing. Abandon is not really anything. Now, obviously, by the way, there's, of course, those dividers of people about Abandon for months, for even years now, right? Of what is this game? Is it a scam? Is there really no game, or there's very little of a game and they're just, they're not even there yet? Is it Hideo Kojima? So obviously there's always been these things. I'm not saying like this is breaking news, like people finally are thinking like this. This has always been the case. But the people that I guess thought that there was nothing really there and Hasan was just showing like one small little piece and there was nothing else, I think that one is the true one, okay? It seems like there was absolutely nothing with Abandon whatsoever, okay? They announced it at the PlayStation blog, and even that stuff is a little bit more simple. I do tend to believe him, and I do tend to believe what other people have said about how PlayStation runs things and about how indies run things. Indies have a budget, much like any company, and how they spend that budget is up to them. The PlayStation blog is just a marketing arm of anybody. Anybody can do that as long as you have the money for it, right? It's literally just a marketing page. So I believe, and I think this is what a lot of people have put together, Hasan had next to nothing for Abandon. He paid for the PlayStation blog thing to get him on. Now, he's a PlayStation partner, but again, all that really means is he can do stuff on PlayStation, right? The app and all that stuff. So he goes on the PlayStation blog. He spends a lot of money on that. Then he promises an app, and he makes the app. And okay, it is a functional app in some capacity. The app costs money. He has a studio, so he says, but then he also backs down on it. When he said there were 6 to 7 external developers helping him work on it, he backed off of that real quick. Eventually, Colin got him to basically say, well, it started at 6 or 7, and then we pulled back because it was too expensive. Some of the ones he had thrown out there are some of the biggest on planet Earth, and for some reason they give him a discount, a massive discount. The way he threw around things, he said the budget right now was only $30,000 that they spent, and then he backtracked and said, well, that's only for the artists, even though there's everything else involved, which is what Colin was asking for, and he just kind of ignored that. So basically what I'm saying is that's kind of simple. He had money somehow. Now we can go back into the scams of the past, right, and all the stuff that they had done, but he had money. He used it all, and now he's got nothing. And that's pretty much, and that's what he's admitting to Dreamcast Guy. That's what he's admitting to IGN. That's what he actually admitted the least to Colin. It doesn't, and here's the thing. Here's another thing. Again, not in a nefarious or like some sort of masterful evil way. People in general, including myself, everybody has trouble admitting they were wrong or admitting they messed up. Everybody. It's not fun and it's not easy to go, especially if you're a game developer and you got 60K followers on Twitter and all this stuff, right? I get, like, it scales. It's not easy to admit you messed up. With that being said, you have to eventually own up to it, otherwise it's just going to get worse. And Hasan has never and still hasn't. He keeps making excuses. Now, he got closer with Colin, but he's still making excuses and jumping through things to avoid the base issue of I messed up. It doesn't take much, although it does. I get it. It's kind of a back and forth. It doesn't take much to say, hey, I overpromised. I did this. We do not have any money. Like, I screwed up big time. It doesn't, again, like, I guess that does take a lot, but it doesn't take much in terms of your vocal cords, right, to say that out loud. And that's pretty much what has happened. They're going to charge for the prologue, which I don't, and this is something I wanted to, like, spend more time on the prologue part, but I don't remember, and you guys will have to let me know. Was the prologue always going to be something you had to pay for, or was that going to be, I don't remember, but now, for sure, you're going to pay for the prologue. It's 2 hours long, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, and it's going to be no more than $15. So $15 or less for that, and the money they make from the prologue is going to fund the base game. So here's where and he said that word for word. So here's where I think, again, why it's a scam. You look at their history. They've never done anything. He gave excuses for what's happened to all of these games. In reality, they've done nothing. They had a mobile game that he basically said was too good for people, right? The game ran so well, but needed the best phones on the market. And this is not a good phone, but it needed the best phones on the market. And when people bought the game and they couldn't run the game on their phones because they were underpowered, they refunded it. Okay, that's a nice way of saying that you just didn't do it right. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like if you make a game for PS5, but you make it so powerful that you actually need the PS6 to run it, and then you blame everybody. You know what I mean? It's like, well, people weren't ready for it. People didn't have the technology. Well, isn't that kind of a you problem when you're developing? That you should probably make a game for people that are able to play it. Isn't that something you should probably do? So he gave an excuse for that. He gave an excuse for the game The Haunting. A bunch of these games have never happened. They were promised. They never came out. They got Kickstarter money for, then they didn't get Kickstarter money for. He talked about the, in terms of who's giving him money for Abandon. He can't really say, but then he did say, but then it sounds like they backed out. It's like, it's all, just like me, it's all over the place, okay? I talk all over the place. He talks all over the place. But again, I think boiled down, what it comes to is they had nothing for their entire career as Blue Box, okay? Since 2015 on, they've done nothing. I don't even know how he got money, but somehow they did. He had this idea for Abandon, which I do think was a real idea. Then he noticed about this Silent Hill stuff. And Colin called him on this at the very end of the interview, but I don't think he went, and it's okay. He didn't go all the way. But I like that he asked this question. They do it to themselves. I've been saying that for a year, that while I do agree the threats, the attacks are overkill. You know what I mean? That's not okay. It's okay to criticize, though, and it's okay to call people out when they do something. And the thing with Hasan and Blue Box is they do things to themselves, and then they blame us. Now again, it's okay to blame people if you're getting threats and like death threats and stuff like that. Yes, that's okay to issue a statement and say, hey, it's as long as it's happening, you better not be making that stuff up, right? But it's okay to issue a statement there. But the fact is, when you do the SL tweet, when you have your banner, and Colin didn't ask him about this, the banner was the island, a small island, which translates, right? His name translates. Now, the translation of his name is probably just a happy coincidence. He didn't change his name for it, you know what I mean? But some things he very specifically did on purpose. I will not back down to that. There were audio files, right, found on his web. I mean, there are definitely things that he is doing on purpose to gather attention. And Colin did call him on that, and basically Hasan said, no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not, I'm not like a glutton for punishment. I'm not trying to get attention by doing these things, by bringing eyes to me. But it is. Again, I think the entire history seems to indicate that. They've had nothing, then they did have something, and then they overpromised, they overshot, but they did realize that they had a little bit of an interest. Unlike, he says, like, well, we were so inexperienced, we didn't know all these people would be so into us. That's fine, but, like, you need to, again, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I feel like you need to embrace that, right? You can't just say, well, because now all of a sudden we have eyes on us, now all of a sudden we have to do this. I really don't think that's true. You need to stick with your goal. Ember Lab, okay, the studio Ember Lab, the one that made Kena Bridge of Spirits. Now, they had done other stuff before, non-gaming related, before that. But they're a very small team, and they made a game, Kena Bridge of Spirits, that came out last year, and it was their first game ever. And it was awesome. It's not perfect. It's not, it was actually maybe my third or fourth favorite game of the year. But it wasn't the best game ever created, but it was a really, really good game. And again, yes, they had, experience in other places, but even when they had eyes on them, right? Because when that was announced, it all of a sudden did become a thing. Any video I made, a small channel, any video I made did really, really well on Kena, okay? A lot of people did really well with Kena. So I guess what I'm saying is, well, did they change because of that? No, they didn't. Just because they had more eyes on them, they stuck with their vision, they stuck with what the game was, and the game came out, and it was what they, I assume what they wanted to be and what they had planned it to be. I feel like Hasan jumps around depending on how many people are looking at him. And he'll blame the opposite. Again, that Haunting game, he talked about it going on Steam, and then it was delisted, and his reasoning was, well, people in his 80-person community asked to play the game in early access, and then when he put it on Steam, it was to everybody. Anybody could play it. And then when other people outside of those 80 played the game, they didn't like it, and they refunded it, and they refunded it so much that he delisted it from Steam. Like, isn't that a problem, right? Again, I get it, you're doing it for this small group, but doesn't the game need to be good, or shouldn't it work outside of those 80 people? That's just my, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's almost like if I made a video for 5 people, but then the video got watched by 5,000, should the video suck? No, it shouldn't. Like, I shouldn't be able to say, well, I made it for 5 people. I didn't think it would get this big. The quality was pathetic, and those 5 people liked it, but the 4,995, they hated it. Is that okay for me to use as an excuse? No, not really. In my opinion, it's probably not. It really isn't. So why is it an excuse for him? And that's the excuse he used. He literally said that out loud. So I just don't understand. So I really do think the game, the idea does exist. They used all of their money to get to this point, but they have nothing else. So what they've done now is they've spun this prologue, which again, I don't remember if it was originally going to be something you had to buy, but now this thing you have to pay for, and this thing you have to pay for is now funding the thing that they promised us. So the thing that they promised us is over here, okay? And it was in the real-time app and the PlayStation blog. This is where all their money went to talking about. Then they ran out of their money. Then they're going to make this, and they're going to say, well, this is now going to fund this, and you're going to do it. We didn't get anybody else to do it. No investor. You're going to do it, the fans, that we created out of thin air because we try to connect ourselves to Hideo Kojima. That's how I think of it. So, again, is it necessarily the most nefarious? Are these like the scam callers, like the scam baiters on YouTube that go, are these the people that are trying to get grandmothers to go to the store to get $5,000 of Amazon cards? Not necessarily. Okay, it's not the same thing. But again, I read the definition of scam and scheme. I do think that's generally what he's doing. I think there was something bigger at play here. I think he smelt that there was like interest here that there wouldn't otherwise be, because he admitted that there really has never been a fandom for Blue Box, and there's never really 80 people is the most he said. You know what I mean? I have more than 80 people. Okay, so I'm not saying that's like horrible. I'm saying that's where they were, and then all of a sudden they smelt, oh, we can do bigger than this, and maybe it's not that they smelt that. Maybe it's, again, not, they were just naive and just kind of walked themselves. But again, it goes back to what I said. Final thing I'll say: either he is the most. There's three options. Either he's pure evil and he's doing it all for money and nefarious or he's just a pure idiot, or he's somewhere in between. You know, and I think he's somewhere in between. I think he's very inexperienced. I think he doesn't know at all what he's doing. I think he overpromised, and I think some of that does come from being naive and not having a clue, right? But I also do think that they do a lot of this stuff to themselves, and then also when you think about their past and think about how the money has completely just gone away from them, and now we're the ones funding it, I think there was some sort of not great kind of motive behind. I believe that. I do. So that's my opinion. Now, like I always say, it's just my opinion. If you guys have a different opinion, I'll respect yours. You respect mine. Leave it in the comments below. Make sure while you're there, you guys hit the red subscribe button if it is red. If you guys are not subscribed, make sure you guys have the bell icon turned on so you know when all these videos go up. I'm not done talking about it. This is obviously kind of almost a big finale, but I think there's still some stuff to come. And then we have to now judge the actual game. Once we get it in 17 years, we have to judge the actual game, and I will be right there to do it. So let me know what you think. Subscribe, bell, all that stuff. All my social media is in the description below if you guys want to check that out. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all on the next video.